And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara Podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Christopher Allaun, author, ordained minister with the Fellowship of the Phoenix, an LGTBQ pagan church. He teaches classes on ancestor honoring, energy healing, dead midwifery, and psychic skills development. He also works with the Lakota Spiritual Path and has permission to hold the sacred pipe ceremonies. Christopher, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Let's kind of start from the beginning. What led you down this path of spirituality?
So when I was a kid, my mother's aunt used to come and visit, and she used to live with her. And her cousins would play with Ouija boards and things like that. And they were very into I guess like at the time, they didn't call it psychic ability. They were just like, oh, we're talking to ghosts. And so her aunt used to tell us bedtime stories, and she'd say, things like, so there was this one time we summoned a ghost, and his name was John, and John died by hanging himself in the attic. And I was so fascinated by this. I thought that was the coolest thing. And like lots of stories of and my family didn't call it witchcraft per se. They called it more of, Jesus gave us like prophetic dreams, and Jesus would tell us things and things like that. And so growing up, I was very open to spirituality, the spirits, ghosts, things like that, because we talked about it all the time. And so I just was open to it. I believed it existed, and I would have experiences all the time. And then when I was like 16, 17 years old, I really started to study psychic abilities and ghosts and what that means, because before it was always like something that just happened. And then I got into it, and I got professional training when I was 25 years old. Yeah, 25 years old. And I went from there, and I'm also part Cherokee in Chicago, and there isn't, as far as I know, a big Cherokee population. So I took some Reiki classes from an Apache teacher, an elder, Billy Topatate. And so I said, hey, can you teach me some Native American spirituality? And she's like, I'm trained in Apache and Lakota, so I can teach you that. So from there, I learned, I studied with her for years and years and years, and I got permission to do the Lakota pipe ceremony. It's called the Chanupa. And we do sweat lodges, vision quests, all that. So, my spirituality ranges from a very Native American earthy to working with the dead and ghosts and things like that.
Have you had any spiritual awakenings in your life, or some type of spiritual event that could have been a catalyst to make you have even more abilities?
That's kind of hard to say, because it wasn't like I paid attention to just, myself, all of a sudden, oh, this happened, I had a car accident, or I got sick, or, oh, I have this epiphany, because it was always in my family, and we always talked about it. But, my family, just like I said, they're very religious. So everything was Jesus. So we talked about angels, and we talked about dreams and ghosts. And so it was always kind of there, And I will say, some of this ceremonies and initiations, like, for example, a vision quest, you fast for several days, and you pray, and you have your you have your sacred pipe and you don't sleep, and so you're sleep deprived. You can't drink anything, you can't eat anything, and so you go into a deep trance, and then you have like a vision, or you have like you work with the spirits and things like that. So I mean, I would say things like that, but I never had this epiphany, like I read all the time. There's two types of like shamanic practitioners: the ones that were born with it, and the one who had a sickness or near death experience. And knock on wood, I've never had a near death experience, although I do live in Chicago. Mm-hmm. So I've been almost hit by a car like 4 times in my life. That's close, but other than that, no.
In my preparation for today's podcast, I came across this word psychopomp. What does that mean?
So psychopomp is actually a Greek word. It literally means a guide of souls. And the idea, if you read like Greek mythology, there's the ferryman who, when someone dies, they roll them across the river Styx and takes them to Hades. And it's considered a very loving, gentle healing thing to do. It's kind of like taking someone to the afterlife. Even in Christian mythology and philosophy, a lot of people believe that when you die, an angel takes you to heaven, or Jesus takes you to heaven, or whatever. In my tradition, we believe that the ancestors come. However, when you die, you're not like all Zen and all going and have the secrets to the universe. You are who you are, and so you still have free will as a human being. So you don't have to go to the afterlife. You can stay here on the earth plane. And because a lot of people do, and they die for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's trauma. Sometimes they're like, oh, I'm not ready to go. And the ancestors and the spirit guides and things like that, they don't force you to go. So a psychopomp can be a spiritual being, such as an angel, an ancestor, a deity, or it can be a living human being who helps the dead cross over. I mean, you've seen those ghost hunter shows all the time. It's like, oh, I'm gonna help the dead cross over. That's kind of true. I think they sensationalize it for television, but in practice, it's kind of the same thing. So in essence, a psychopomp is either a spirit, a god, a deity, an angel, or a living human who helps the dead cross over to the afterlife, and whatever afterlife that means for them.
Why do you think a person would not want to cross over and stay around here?
I've actually worked with a lot of spirits who didn't cross over, and there's many reasons, but some of them more common is like unfinished business. And unfinished business can literally be anything from, oh, I want to see my children grow up, or I'm trying to think through my experience. And another reason, and I write this in my book, there was an older gentleman who died, and he left his business, his actual store, to his sons, but his sons were like 20s and young, and he felt like he needed to stay around to help them run the business. Other times, it's a justice. Like if you got killed on the street, it would upset you. You'd be very angry about it. And some spirits don't want to cross over until their killer comes to justice. I've had to deal with that a few times. I mean, I live in Chicago, and Chicago has crime, Chicago has shootings. And so, I've dealt with that several times. Drug addiction is another. A lot of people, when they overdose, sometimes they don't even know they're dead. Other times they're still trying to chase a high, and sometimes the high is, when you're a spirit, it becomes, you're not chasing heroin, you're not chasing you're chasing an energy. Let's see, other times, some people just don't want to go. Like, say you died in a car accident in an age 25. Like, I'm too young to die, I don't want to go. And if you think about it, I can understand how some people who die are in shock. Like, I can't be dead. That's no, I'm not going anywhere, I'm going home. And so that's another reason. But to be honest, you don't have to go. No one forces you to go. The only time I've ever had to force a spirit to cross over is when they were hostile and harming people. And that's, and to be honest, that's rare. I get people all the time, Chris, I think my house is haunted. Can I come over? It's not haunted. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, I heard a bump, or I heard the wind blow, or I heard something, and they think their house is haunted, and it isn't. So it's extremely rare I have to force a spirit to cross over.
So are the spirits that don't cross over considered ghosts?
I mean, that's just a terminology. So yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't really call them that, because I want to respect them for their humanity. And, all my friends had joked that, my house is one of the most haunted houses in Chicago. And that's because I see the spirits as people. They just happen to not have a body. And the rule in my house is all the spirits are welcome here. However, just don't startle me. Don't chase the cat. Don't do anything weird. Don't jump out and try to spook me. And we're all good. Because, I'm not scared of ghosts or anything. However, I don't like to be startled. And either it's very disconcerting when you're taking a shower and there's someone staring at you. It's very odd, and so I don't like that. But I think it's just terminology about ghosts and spirits and things like that.
So do you physically see them, and how do you communicate with them? I mean, just by talking?
I just talk to them. So, because I as a child, I was very open to spirits and things. I could always feel them. And in my psychic classes, I teach that anyone can learn to see spirits. The first thing is you have to be open to the experience. You have to be open. And one of the ways to see them is to honor your own ancestors, like have an ancestral shrine or sacred space in your home, and you talk to your ancestors. And my tradition, we leave offerings like a food and things move like that, and you open up your heart chakra and you just become aware, and you start to feel their presence. And it's easier with your own ancestors because it's your family, And then after a while, I tell my students, close your eyes and try to see what you think they look like in your head. And you could be wrong, and you could be just making it up, but that's okay, because you're teaching your brain how to see it, right? So you sense the energy, you sense the presence, You close your eyes, you're like, what do I think this looks like? And then you try to see if you can hear them, if you can. And how do you do that? What do you think they're saying? By opening up your heart to them, opening up your senses. What do you think they're saying by the energy you're getting? Then over time, it builds up. And then when you sense the energy outside yourself, what do you think that looks like? So you kind of visualize what they look like. And at first, it's a little bit fuzzy, but over time, it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer. So seeing the spirits isn't hard. For myself, it's not like on the Sixth Sense where, oh my God, I see them all the time and they're always keeping me up. It's not like that at all. It's kind of like, when you're having a conversation or you're watching a TV show and you kind of start to daydream, you don't pay attention to the whoever's talking, same thing. So I don't have to see them all the time. I sense them all the time, but I don't have to see them. And you can say that about anything, because how many times have you drove down a road or went for a walk and you see a sign or a house and you thought, has that house always been there? I've never seen it before. Just because you're not paying attention. And so if you use that same philosophy, you don't have to see them all the time, but you can if you choose. I just make the choice that I'm going to pay attention to whatever I'm doing at that time.
Do you think that there is a hell? And if so, can people get out of it?
That's interesting, because in my very first book called Underworld, Shamanism, Myth, and Magick, I talk about that. So the Buddhists believe, and I agree, that the afterlife is just energy. That's all it is. And whatever you create, can you visualize? Well, that's the afterlife for you. That's why the Greeks have Hades and the Christians have heaven, and and so on and so on. However, I think that there are some people who are kind of traumatized with the idea of hell. And I think that there are some people, because of whatever reason, think that they deserve hell. A long time ago, I had a few gay people who sadly were just like, well, I'm gay, I'm going to hell. And you cannot convince them otherwise. And that's trauma right there. And so, I'm hoping that they evolved out of that. But I can see some people who at the point of death, they think they're going to hell. However, when you do a meditation and you visualize, or you do a shamanic journey, and you can actually go, to these places. It doesn't hurt. There's no hellfire. There's no things like that. A lot of spiritualists call it the shadow lands or the shadow world, and you can get people out of it. However, it's interesting because, one of the practices I do as a psychopomp is I help people out of the shadow places. And I've noticed, those people who, and we've all been there sometimes, when you go through a depression, and all the happiness is all around you. There's a party, there can be a parade, but because you're in a dark place, that's all you see. As a psychopomp, my job is to say, hey, listen, get you out of this place. Because if you die and you're in a very dark place, you're going to create a version of hell for yourself. However, it's an illusion. It's just energy. You can change it. You can get out of it. But sometimes someone can need some help. There's a lot of different philosophies about how that happens, about why it happens, and a blah blah blah. But to go back, I don't. In my experience with the spirits, there's no eternal damnation, hellfire. God sends you to a place of punishment. I think we literally create our own hell, you know.
Since you're part Cherokee and you've studied the Lakota style of spirituality, I guess you would say, do you consider yourself a shaman?
So it's interesting because when shaman is a buzzword, it sounds sexy, it sounds magical, it sounds important. You know, a lot of people, especially guys, I've seen a lot of guys do this, like, well, I'm a shaman. Like, okay. So shaman's a title. And I asked, you know, my teacher, Billy Topatate, I asked her, is it correct to call what we do shamanism? And she was like, well, that's semantics, because shaman's a title. It's like a rabbi. Unless you're Jewish, specially trained in the Jewish tradition and ordained as a rabbi, you cannot call yourself a rabbi. Same thing. However, I do understand there's common language. Like if I say guided visualization, oh, can you understand what that means? Do you know Lakota spirituality? I don't. Do you know shamanism? Oh, I've heard of that. So there is a connection there. However, I asked my teachers if it's appropriate to say shaman, and they said if other people call you a shaman, that's okay, because that's all they have experience with. But in Lakota, we say I'm a Lakota's spiritual leader or spiritual practitioner, or like they're very specific. Like I have permission to do the sweat lodge, but I don't have permission to do a Sundance. So I don't. So I usually just say things like, "I'm a Lakota sacred pipe leader." I don't say a spiritual leader per se, because I think it's a whole different thing. So it is about language, and it's also about respecting the tradition. So I think it's okay when someone goes, "Oh, I'm reading about shamanism. I'm practicing shamanic techniques." I think that's okay. But to say I'm a shaman, that's a specific thing that belongs to a certain type of people.
You mentioned sacred pipe ceremony. What is that?
What is that? So you see on TV the peace pipe, right? It's kind of like that, but it's a little bit more detailed. So there is so basically the pipe itself has a different spiritual meaning. So the bowl, it represents the feminine side of creation, and it also represents Mother Earth herself. And the stem, it represents the plant world, the trees, and also Father Sky. It represents the masculine side of the universe. When you put the two together, the bowl and the pipe stem, it represents a birth, creation, manifestation. And when you put the tobacco in many Native American spiritual traditions, tobacco is used as an offering. And you put the pipe in, or you put the tobacco in the pipe, light it, and you pray. And you usually pray for things like healing, whatever you need. So if you have a friend who needs a job, you pray for your friend to have a job. If you know someone who's sick, you pray for them to heal, and so forth. And the smoke is an offering to the spirits who do the healing, who bring the job, who do things like that. So in their sacred songs, there's tons and tons and tons of songs to sing, and things like that. And everyone gets a chance to pray and smoke the pipe. And you don't smoke it for yourself. You don't inhale. You take the smoke in your mouth, and the idea is that it blends in with your energy. And when you blow it out, you're not only blowing out the tobacco smoke, you're blowing out an offering of yourself to the spirits. So it's a little bit more complicated than that, but in a 5-minute spiel, that's a pipe ceremony.
So do you think anybody can develop psychic skills, or you have to naturally be psychic?
I think everyone has some psychic skills. I don't believe in talent per se. I believe in hard work and practice and discipline. I think the reason I was able to advance so quickly is because I was open to it. I think some people are open and some people aren't. It's kind of like there's some people who say, I can't do science. I hate science. If they apply themselves, and it may not be fun, and it may not be sexy and entertaining, but if they apply themselves, then they can do chemistry and biology. They may not be a chemist, but they can do at least the basics. Same thing with psychic skills. If you're open to it and can you practice, you can develop psychic skills. One of the things I hear authors say and teachers say all the time, that gut feeling like, I shouldn't do that. That's your psychic ability. So everyone has it. Also, the spidey sense, how you get the spidey sense sometimes? You're just like, I feel like something's off. Like something's off today. That's a psychic ability. So you just have to practice. You have to train yourself. You have to, one of the things for myself is I have a reason to practice. I'm an energy healer. I do sacred ceremonies. I help the dead cross over. I do things like that. So it's important that I advance in my psychic abilities. I think if someone really wants to become psychic, I think they have to have a goal. They have to have a reason. Like, I don't think if you want to be psychic just for fun, I mean, I guess you can, but if you have a goal, like, I want to help people, I want to heal people, I want to help the dead cross over, then you have a tangible goal that you can work for. And I think it's important.
Do you think energy healing can go back in time and help a loved one transition into death?
100%. 100%. So in energy healing, energy itself has no concept of time and space. So you can send energy to the future or energy to the past. So, I write in my book about how from that all of us has the privilege to be with someone at the point of death. Accidents happen, heart attacks happen, disease happens. I've known people who was at someone's bedside for hours and hours and hours. They got up to go to the restroom. They came back and they were gone. And a lot of people have this guilt, like, oh, I shouldn't have gone to the bathroom. I shouldn't have had food that day. I should have been with them. But you can send the energy back in time at the point of transition and ease the transition. And why is that important? So a lot of people are scared. Some aren't, but some people are. A lot of people, it's a great adventure. It's a great it's a great unknown. You know, a lot of people say, oh, when you die, you go to heaven. Some people are like, well, whatever isn't true, what's going to happen to me? And so it helps with those fears. It also helps for to have a presence of energy of just someone else being there with you. And even if you're not in the same room with them, they can feel it. You know, like, I'm not sure about you, but sometimes I get the feeling that my family's thinking about me. Like, oh, I'm thinking about my brother. He must be thinking about me right now. Or or my personal favorite, I should call home. I think my mom wants me to call home. I feel like I should, you know, so they can feel it. And so that's why it's also important. So yeah, it can go back in time. And I think that's important for your own healing sometimes, especially if you had a partner, a wife, a grandparent, a child who died alone. A lot of people have that guilt. And so I think with all energy healing, whenever you're helping someone else, you're also healing yourself.
Earlier, you mentioned that people tell you, hey, Chris, I think my house is haunted. Is that common that houses are haunted, or what's going on with that?
No. So here's the thing. Like I said, spirits can either transition to the afterlife or hang around. And sometimes it doesn't have to be a trauma. Sometimes you're like, I'm going to hang around. And I think people get spooked a lot. You know, for my partners out of town, I love to watch like horror movies and true crime all by myself. And I swear to God, and me of all people, and I am totally fine with the spirits. I'm like, oh, I hear something. What's that? Because I'm spooking myself out, but I enjoy it. I kind of do it on purpose because I enjoy it. And I think people just, that's where their head goes, you know. However, it's interesting. There's something called a psychic echo or psychic reverberation or whatever. You know, you hear the stories, especially on the ghost shows, about, oh, every night at midnight, I see a lady fall down the stairs every night. She falls down the stairs and it's so tragic. That's not a ghost or a spirit thing. That's a psychic echo. What is a psychic echo? It's kind of like when there's an event, a trauma, a feeling that's so strong, it puts an energy out into the physical plane. And it's like a tape recorder. It plays over and over and over. How do you know the difference? If you can see it, talk to it. If it doesn't answer you or just keeps on falling down that stair, it's probably not a real spirit. It's probably just a psychic echo. However, it's very disconcerting. It's not fun. It's not pretty. So you can clear it out very simply. You know, I'm not trying to promote the book a lot, but I do give clear instructions in my book. So yeah.
Can you give us like a simple answer of how to clear them up?
It goes back to energy. And so there are several ways to clean. And then Native American tradition, you can do like sage and a smudge and things like that. You can also do, strangely enough, prayer. A lot of people downplay prayer, and I'm not Christian per se, but I believe in the power of faith. And when you believe something to be true, you're adding an energy into the physical plane, so that energy, that light, that brightness can cleanse. Also, you can visualize a white light. Like one of the easiest things is imagine a sphere, and know that sphere comes from a very powerful healing place of the universe, and just see this fear growing and growing and growing, but it's healing, it's cleansing, it's very powerful, it's beautiful. And as it grows, it pushes all the negative energy outside the home. So that's a very simple way to do it. I like to do that and a smudge together just to be extra sure, and that should clean it right up.
I was going to ask, does using sage really work?
Absolutely, 100%. It's interesting because it's to cleanse, right? And we use it in a lot of our Lakota ceremonies, and we we fan the smoke over us. So some scientists decide, hey, we're going to check this out. And they found out that sage smoke kills bacteria, viruses, germs. So the smoke in itself, physically, is very cleansing. Spiritually, it cleanses your aura, it cleanses your home. You should try it because, take some sage, fan it around your house, leave for 5 minutes, come back, and the house should feel like lighter. It should feel like kind of tingly. It should feel like, and the feeling in the house is a lot happier, brighter, better. And that's without the visualization. If you add the visualization of the sphere, it's even more powerful.
All right. In the beginning, I mentioned that you are an ordained minister in a pagan church.
Yeah.
What do you preach and what do you study in the pagan church?
So paganism, and all paganism means is that we believe in many different forms, ideas, and aspects of deity. Some people believe in the Greek or Egyptian gods. Some people just believe, I'm not sure what's out there. I just know that there's several incarnations of God. In paganism, for myself, I do believe in Jesus. I do believe in the Buddha. I believe in Muhammad, but I also believe in Zeus and Aphrodite and everybody else. And we don't really preach per se. We don't stand up for front and say, do this, pray like this, do this. We don't do that. We like to talk about the cycles of the earth, because in paganism, we're very earth oriented. So we like to recycle, take care of the earth, because we believe the earth is a living goddess. We believe that the sky is a god. We believe that the sun has a spirit. We believe that the stars have spirits. All those things. Every tree, every plant, every flower, every pool of water also has a spirit, and so we help people connect to whatever they believe that deity is. And so in our tradition, we honor the cycles of the sun. So for example, spring, we'll have a ceremony for springtime, summer, fall, Halloween. Yes, sometimes you celebrate Christmas, New Year's, winter, harvest, things like that. And we help people connect and find the correlations in their own life. So for example, spring. Spring's a time of growing things. It's the time of warmth. It's the time of transitioning, especially here in Chicago, transitioning from the cold, brutal snow to a little bit of warmth, and this is awesome. So how do we correlate that into someone's life? Well, what do you want to grow in your own life? What are your goals? What are your ambitions? Or what do you need? I like to use the example of a new job because it's easy. I need a new job. Okay, well, that's what you need to grow. So let me help you take the first steps to plant that seed. Let me help you connect with that energy. And then we do a visualization of the growing of the job, growing fruit per se, and things like that. And so that's what a typical pagan ceremony might look like. Plus, we honor ourselves, but not in a I'm so awesome kind of way, but in a how can I work on myself? How can I work on my shadow? How can I be a better human being? How can I help heal others? We talk about that too.
Can you give us another example of some of the psychopomp work you have done?
Yeah. So one time there was a person who was shot and killed by, let's just say shot and killed at a cross street for close to and after hours for gay dance club. I felt this overwhelming need to check it out and talk to the spirit. So I went over there, and the spirit was pissed off. They're like, I didn't deserve this. Someone shot me. I want justice. And so, this was back in like 2003, 2004, and I was just kind of learning the psychopomp things. And so, like, I was thinking, how do I do this? How do I help them find justice so that they can feel like it's time to move on? I'm not a true crime psychic or anything like that, so I wasn't gonna go to police and find their killer. I wasn't gonna do that. I mean, that's awesome, but that's not how I do it. So what I did is that I performed a ceremony. And I called the spirits and gods I connect with it, and I said, hey, in order for the spirit, this human being, to heal and to move on, they need the shooter to be caught. So a few weeks later, they did catch the guy. Now, did I have something to do with it? I like to think so, but maybe not, whatever. So I go back to the area where the person died, and I contacted the spirit, and I said, hey, this person has been brought to justice. They've been caught. It's time to go. And so they're like, okay. So I opened up a door, and I helped them go through. I actually called their ancestors too. I say, hey, call to your grandparents, your great grandparents. And so they came, and we walked them through, and then you shut the door, and basically shut the portal. And that's just one of the ways. Another time, I was actually dating someone, and so then there was a spirit there, and everybody knew that the spirit was here, and the person I was dating was very upset about it. It's like, I want this person to move on. So I'm like, okay. So I contacted the spirit, and I said, hey, listen, it's time to move on. I mean, I say it more eloquently than that, but and the spirit goes, I really need to move on, but I can't, because the person who lives here, their grief over my own death is holding me here. It's like their pain, their sorrow is like chaining them to the physical plane. So I was like, okay, this is new. So it wasn't the actual spirit who was choosing to remain. It was the grieving alive person who was holding them there subconsciously. So I had to do the work with my friend, the person I was dating, and say, listen, we got to work through your grief. You've got to let this person go. Also, it's very important to say that I'm just a catalyst. Sometimes I actually need a therapist, the living person. and sometimes it's okay to see a therapist to let someone go. It is. So they worked through that, and I called the spirit's ancestors, their family, say, hey, let's help them move on. And there was that. And that one I wouldn't say shocked me per se, but I was surprised because I hadn't ever seen anything like that before. Like I didn't even know that was possible, you know. But if you think about it, there are a lot of people who lose a child, a friend, a partner, whoever, and really they hold on to them so tight that it sends out a psychic energy that traps them. Mm. And I also want to say, I don't want to blame those people. I mean, they're going through extreme grief. I mean, I can't blame them, but we do need to work through the grief so that they can let the loved one go. You know, I think that's important.
All right, Chris, you are the author of 5 books. Can you tell us the titles of them and where to find them?
So the first book is called Underworld, Shamanism, Myth, and Magic. The second one is a sequel. It's called Deeper into the Underworld. And a lot of the psychic things I said are in these 2 books. And then the third is called the Upper World. That's about the gods, about the angels, the planets, things like that. And then I've wrote the Other World, Ecstatic Witchcraft for the Spirits of the Land. And that talks about working with the fairy spirits, the dragon spirits, plant spirits. And then this brand new book that just came out a few months ago is called The Guide of Spirits. And that's where we talk about the Psychopomp work. All these you can find on Amazon, Amazon.com. Leave a review. We love reviews. Buy the book, leave a review.
Do you have a website?
I do. It's chrisallaun.com, ChrisAllaun. And I always have to spell my name because nobody will ever find it if I don't.
If people want to reach out to you and ask you questions or chit chat with you, are you open to that? And if so, how should they reach you?
I am 100% open to that. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook. So all the social media I'm on. My Facebook I use more for advertising and things. But my Instagram, if you ever want fun photos of random things, Instagram's a fun thing, but I answer everything. I'm happy to chat anytime because I'm a talker, so I like to talk to people, so it's fine.
Do we find you on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter under your name, Chris Allaun?
Yep, it's all under my name. I don't have any pseudonyms or like fake names or whatever. I'm just me, so Chris Allaun.
Do you have anything else you're working on that you want us to know about?
I'm about to release a hardcover double volume set of my very first 2 books, Underworld and Deeper into the Underworld. 442 pages, all re-edited, updated. I added a few things here and there to make it a little more 2022. And that double set hardcover edition will be out April 21st.
Oh, fantastic. All right. Well, before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
I would just say find healing however you can for yourself and for other people. And if that's you can become a psychopomp, that's great. If it's energy and healing, that's great. Or if it's just being a good friend, I think that's fine too, because we all need those good vibes. There's so much hate out there and war and all this stuff. I think if every person at least tries to be a good a person and he can be open to other people, other cultures, I think it'll help humanity a lot.
Well, Chris, thank you for that message, and thank you so much for being my guest today. I really appreciate you, and I wish you the best.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.